Welcome to Talking in Stations, a podcast about EVE Online. I'm Adderall, here with Arcia. How you doing, Arcia?
Doing well. Thank you. Yourself?
Good. I'll introduce the rest of the gang in just a minute. Let's first review what happened last week. On Monday, we talked about the F2O Keepstar. EVE Uni turned 17. We're actually going to meet the communications director of EVE University today as well. That'll be a little later in the show. We talked about mining scarcity with some miners. On Tuesday, we took a look at EVE Anywhere, which is playing EVE in your browser. Looks pretty good. On Wednesday, we talked to Rocket X about, putting down a Keepstar, but also how he ejected a spy not that long ago, according to him. We'll see if we can't meet that spy today and see what he says. On Thursday, we didn't have a show. I was actually interviewed on Lasers and Lace with Ivy and Delana. So that was nice. If you want to watch that, it is on New Eden Post. It talks about, I talk about Talking in Stations history and just what it's like to be behind the scenes. If you're interested in that, check that out. And on Friday, we looked at the F2O and DTAC-W Keepstars both going down, and we met Waffles and what they're doing in Syndicate. So those are all the shows that you can find on YouTube/Talking in Stations. Or if you want to listen to the podcast version of those shows, they're found at EVE Online Newsday, made by Talking in Stations. Some extra material, though. On Monday, we had the live coverage of F2O as that Keepstar went down. Actually, it was reinforced. It didn't go down. It was just reinforced. But that was the actual battle. We thought there might be a battle there. We also did the Euro show, right, McLeod? 3 and 4. Those are the episodes 3 and 4. Last week was 1 and 2. And then finally, we did an anniversary episode, Quarantine in Stations, COVID 1 year later. We did that with Tiberius and Lula. That was a real life thing. A year ago, we did Quarantine in Stations as kind of a way of saying like, hey, let's adjust to this new world that we're going into for our fans. So we did about 3 episodes of that a year ago. And it was nice to revisit that series a year later. So that was pretty cool. It also gives us a chance to update everybody on where the science is and where the society is for COVID at the time now, as opposed to a year ago. So that's what we did this week on Talking in Stations. And you can, if you want to get a newspaper inside of the game, you can actually find that by subscribing to the newsletter TIS News, and open up your mail. And at the bottom left, you'll see a button called Add Mailing List, and use that. Type in TIS News, and you will get a newspaper every day. It's got great battle reports and all kinds of news from all over EVE. And that's just something we do, bring you the news.
I'll have to check out that episode you did on Waffles and Syndicate. Syndicate was honestly one of the most interesting areas that I ever did like a campaign in. There's a lot of really cool small groups that live in Syndicate, whether it be Of Sound Mind, IRED. EVE University has a campus there, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. PC9, is that PC9?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I dropped a revelation on them there.
Oh, no.
It was so great. They had a Caracal fleet out, and I was a jerk. But no, Syndicate is a fantastic place that is, it's, the culture in Syndicate isn't like the same as like the other NPC null, like Curse in the Great Wildlands, and I had a lot of fun when we did a campaign. I was, this is after I left Pi, but before I joined EM, I did a campaign helping IRED, who is the Caldari role players who've been living in Syndicate for like 10 years. I helped them against the Initiative, who is the big bad of the area, and we were like doing a little guerrilla warfare, and they were like burning down everyone's structures who had EU time zone structures, and we were trying to hit them in their Athenors every EU time zone day so we could mine their ore in US time zone. It was super fun. All right.
Yeah,
Syndicate's a great place. I'll have to check that episode out.
Yeah, it's a traditionally active area for smaller alliances, and it's just people trying to get a beginning. It's a little more It's funny, there's kind of, if you look at EVE Online's map, there's kind of beginner nullsec areas that you would go to, and then there's intermediate.
I wouldn't call it like beginner, but like I think the big difference between like Syndicate and the Great Wildlands is that Syndicate has a lot more NPC stations, right? Like the Great Wildlands has like the 2 or 3 systems that have like an NPC station, and Syndicate just has a bunch, and it's kind of cool.
Yeah. All right, so let's actually meet the other guys that are here today. Abby Rova is here. He is from Talking in Stations. How's it going, Abby?
I'm good. Thanks, William. How are you?
Good. Also with us is Rich Richmond. How you doing, Rich?
You caught me at a very bad time, Admiral. I'm on a walk on a country road, but I'm here.
All right. You can describe what you're seeing in a minute. Also, our guest today, one of our guests is Hippla Tsero, and he is the communications director for EVE University. How are you doing, Hippla?
I am doing fantastic, and I hope everybody else as well on this fine weekend.
Thanks. Okay, so EVE University, let's talk about EVE University. It's been 17 years since it started. Can you tell us a little bit about, actually, before we start about EVE University, let's talk about you. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
See, I'm a complete new bro. I mean, I'm a big fan of Talking in Stations, so I'm very well updated on what's happening all over the place, thanks to you guys. But I'm playing only for a bit more than a year, and I had tried EVE a while back and didn't really like it, and then I came back, and thanks to EVE University, I got to know the game. I sort of found this community, and especially during these COVID times, I've been spending way too much time on my computer playing EVE and getting to know EVE and all the different facets of EVE. And now I'm doing the communications at EVE University, which basically means taking care of the blog and some of the YouTube stuff and Twitter, social media, and so on. And I have a great team that is organizing events like our 17th anniversary that we had this weekend.
The amount of EVE players that tried to get into the game and couldn't, and then tried again and could because they found a good group is gigantic. I'm among those numbers. I know a lot of people who fall into the same category. So groups like EVE University that help new players get into the game, find their niche, and learn the game are very, very good for the game, I think, because it is such a difficult game to learn unless you find a good group.
I think the main reason why I stuck around in my second attempt to get into EVE was...
Well, I haven't introduced you yet, Gregorian. This is Gregorian. He's part of TIS as well. Sorry. And you were also part of EVE University at one point.
Yeah, and I think that was one of the reasons why in my second attempt to get into the game I stuck around was because I found EVE University, and that was a really good experience for me.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head, right? Like the reason why EVE University exists for 17 years is just because it's successful. It's needed. People need an organization that helps them sort of to get acquainted with EVE. And of course, there's other new bro corporations or new bean corporations out there, but sort of this neutrality that EVE University offers really, really helps people to settle into the game.
Yeah, there's so many weird, unintuitive mechanics that you just really need to be taught. Stuff like insta-dock bookmarks and insta-undock bookmarks, how to bounce gate guns in low-sec. These kind of things, you can't really do like a tutorial agent. I mean, I guess you could do a tutorial agent that teaches you about insta-dock bookmarks. And if you don't do it, like, you warp to a station and like NPCs gank you if you didn't insta-dock, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Things like kick-out stations. Like, when you're a new player, you don't expect the stations that have different radiuses when you undock.
Yeah, and it's not only the simple things. Like you already, that's already almost advanced. When you start the game, I recently tried to get my friend into it, and he shared his Discord screen. It's just amazing to see that someone that hasn't played EVE, how they struggle just understanding the interface. What is the overview? I say go to the overview. It's like, what is the overview? So sort of these very basics. EVE is an incredibly complex game. So even these sort of very basic things that in most corporations you would sort of be expected to at least know how to move systems system to system. What does it mean, different security? Sort of these things that we take completely for granted in the way we talk about EVE. These are things that take players to learn 2, 3, 4 months.
Yeah, it took me 2 weeks to figure out how to jump out of my first system the first time I played. So definitely.
I've recently come into close proximity to a couple of new players I'm helping out through some friends, and this is amazing because I've struggled with a lot of what you're talking about already this week. Overview, undocking, like it's amazing. And you know, I'd also just like to say thank you to EVE University as well. If it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be here either.
Cool.
All right, well, let's talk a little bit about EVE University's. Well, actually, since you're kind of a new player, I don't know how much of their history you know.
So I'm in a quite lucky position because so when I became communications manager, I thought, hey, we should do more events to kind of also look at our history of EVE University. So actually, we had quite recently a fireside chat with the founder of EVE University, who founded EVE University 17 years ago. His name is Morning Maniac. He's an educator, and he doesn't play the game, but every now and then he comes back and he talks about why he has started EVE University. And the reason is not very different than what EVE University is doing right now, right? It's about helping people to understand the game. And of course, the game was less complex when it was released, but I also know from watching old videos and listening to some of the bitter vets on talking in stations, I of course know that, you know, sometimes the interface was more complicated. Some of the quality of life changes that happened over the last 17, 18 years, of course, really made the game easier in some facets, but it's still a complicated game. It was back then, and that was the idea. And as a sandbox, I think there can be nothing better than a university sort of giving you the first steps to learn the game and stick around the community. And in a way, that's what we want, right? We want players not only to have the first hour of EVE, but to actually stick around and get excited about the wars and, you know, get to know different elements of the game, whether that's Pochven. I know, Arcia, you're very excited about faction warfare and all these type of things, right? There's so much cool stuff that people can see, and they just kind of need this nudge to actually play the game long enough to experience them.
So I think it's interesting to note that like a lot of the quality of life changes that have happened over the years happened because people like learn the mechanics. Like you couldn't used to warp to something at 0, right? But everybody made special bookmarks that let them warp to gates at 0, so to get around that limitation. So they eventually just said, whatever, you can warp to 0 now, because everybody's just going through all these extra steps to do it, so they can do it. So we just let them warp to 0, and it just EVE players learned the mechanics that existed in the game and took steps to more efficiently traverse the geography of space, and there were changes that were just made because of it, because it didn't make sense to limit them anymore. So I think that's like super interesting.
Yeah, we're talking about how actually on Lasers and Lace interview, I said that, yeah, EVE or CCP is actually developing this game with a partner, and somebody said, oh, you mean Pearl Abyss? And I said, no, the players are the partner in the development of this game for exactly the reason you said, and also the limitations they run into. Actually, we were talking to a new player, and I like the ordinary man in EVE Online. That's who I cheer for. His name was Tredegar. He came around, he's been watching the show, but he came around and jumped into voice with us. He's been here since day one, basically. And he was saying the most important upgrade for him was when they put in afterburners and micro warp drives. So there was a time when those didn't exist.
I think that my favorite recent update is shared bookmarks. I love them so much, and the ability to quickly make a bookmark folder and connect and disconnect. Like, okay, I have a bookmark folder that's pings for defense for this citadel specifically, and I can just disable it when I'm not defending that citadel, and then I can share it to everybody who's coming who might not be in my alliance. That's fantastic.
Yeah, well, okay, so that's great. Actually, we have some quality of life changes we'll talk about in a few minutes, so we can go back to some of the stuff that's still evolving. But EVE University, do you guys have some events coming up, or can you tell us about your 17th anniversary and some of the stuff that you have planned?
So yeah, I think to give a little bit of context, so EVE University is of course very well known for the UniWiki. I think any EVE player that ever Googled anything on on EVE probably hit the Uni wiki at one point. So I just linked also in the Talking in Stations a history of EVE wiki article. You can be pretty sure that there's a wiki article for pretty much everything, because that's one of the great things about the wiki, that we sort of document the game and we try to in the wiki, of course, show all the elements, and it's in a way educational. But yeah, talking about the anniversary, so 17 years down the road, we're still going strong. We had a whole week of celebrations. We are organized in 5 campuses. So EVE University is not only the wiki, but it's also an in-game cooperation, so a community where people sort of under the guidance of slightly more experienced players can learn the game. And in the week leading up to our birthday, we had events at all different campuses. We did so-called sleepovers. So players could go from the low-sec campus to the high-sec campus, from the high-sec campus to the null-sec campus, live in a wormhole for a day, do some incursions, do all different kinds of kind of game content at our different campuses and communities. And then we had some bigger events. You talked about it already at the beginning of the week. We had Kribber coming on, who brought out his Weltnot, so his dreadnought that is mining Veltspar, or as he calls it, the Weltnot. And yeah, we culminated in having a fireside chat with Kribber, talking a bit about the past of EVE and how he has had this role of trust in EVE that, of course, brought him this fame. And also the new monument, which now we can all visit during the Grand Prix, which is, of course, also something EVE University is very excited about, especially because the Grand Prix people are coming through Syndicate right now. So lots of gate camps there. So everybody who is going to Solitude, be careful.
I saw the IRID and Lumen people gate camping in Syndicate got like 300 kills in like 2 days. It's like crazy, and they were only spending a few hours. It's like insane how many people are dying.
Yeah, absolutely. So part of our anniversary celebrations were, taking out fleets. So, for example, these type of fleets, doing a gate camp, learning how to do a gate camp. But we did also some out of EVE competition. So we had, for example, a screenshot competition throughout the whole week where people can win some skins and some nice prizes. So we try to sort of have a very holistic view on EVE and try to highlight all the different facets and give players really the opportunity to just experience more than maybe just one niche that they sort of landed in during the first days or first weeks of EVE.
Oh, cool. All right. So, Gregorian, you were saying you were part of EVE Uni. How long were you with them?
I was with them for about 6 months in 2019. When that was my second attempt at getting into EVE. My first attempt was in 2013.
It's very good. That was a good time to try to get in, actually, 2013. Rich, I know you're walking around out there. You probably see some sheep and cows and lamb on the hillsides. So I imagine you're like in, near Zurich somewhere. But did you ever join EVE Uni, or did you jump right into PvP? And we lost Rich, probably eaten by a crocodile. All right. One of the things this is an old criticism of EVE Uni, I'll see if you deal with it now, that you didn't really prepare people for the true game. I put that in quotations, that people needed to learn how to fly and fight and get out there in PvP. And when you guys got hit with a war deck, one of the things that would happen is you'd say, don't undock, let these guys get bored, and then we'll go on with our lives, except that there was always a war deck. I think EVE Uni changed their style of dealing with that sort of thing. Do you know how they deal with it these days?
Oh, they do a War HQ structure bash immediately, as far as I could tell. To end the war deck immediately. That's okay. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct, without giving too much information and putting a big X on our backs. But we are trying to, of course, also, and Madarel, I think you have a point, right? The big soft-null warfare, or if you want to become a very good PvPer, you're not going to do that in your first 6 months of the game in any case. But that's something sort of we prepare people for. We have an FC team. The famous or infamous Saber A came on for a while and created an FC team recently for EVE University. So we do have experienced players that are coming back to the game, that are maybe a bit fed up with the war or don't want to be F1 monkeys, as they call themselves. So they say, hey, I come back to EVE Uni, I teach. So we do have quite a few experienced PvPers in the corp, and I mean, we don't have caps. We are it's a relatively small corporation compared to some of the big alliances. Like we wouldn't have multiple fleets of 250 people to do some big bashing. But yeah, if one of these Jita war decking alliances is messing with us, we'll try to defend ourselves to the best of our capabilities. And well, the great thing about EVE University is if we lose and all get blown up, we reflect, we debrief, and we try to learn from it rather than being salty about it. So yeah, I think every loss is a learning experience for us. So even as a small player, we can still learn a lot by getting ourselves blown up.
Yeah. Well, there used to be a thing called the what would you call it, Arcia? The reputation tanking, like EVE Uni. Like, why would you pick on EVE Uni or the Sixth Empire?
I guess example? I would call it reputation tanking. I would say the most obvious example is Signal Cartel, right?
Signal Cartel. Yeah.
I think more people don't want to shoot Signal Cartel than don't want to shoot any other group in the game. Obviously, a lot of people will shoot them, but groups that are there are some groups that I don't want to say nobody wants to pick on, and I don't think people shouldn't attack them if they want to, because dealing with the war decks is part of the game, and that's part of the game you have to teach. So, in essence, I think they're helping EVE Uni, right? Because if you operate in high sec and you have infrastructure, war decks are a fact of life, and you need to be able to deal with them. And if EVE Uni is organizing structure bashes and taking out the war HQ, they're doing exactly what they need to do. Because that's something that you have to learn how to deal with these groups, and
there was a defense. I mean, even nullsec does that, right? They're like, don't undock. We're not taking this fight. Like, because they're trying to bore.
So, like, there's don't undock at all, and then there's don't undock in stupid conditions, kind of. I mean, I think even the most... so, like, before EM, when I was with Lumen, what Lumen used to do was... Okay, we got a high sec war deck, Pirate or whatever. Don't have a dumb loss in high sec. Go lose as many ships as you want and null the low to pirates, but just don't have a dumb loss in high sec, because that just encourages them to keep picking on you. Right?
I think the point you were kind of making earlier on, Matterall, is kind of comes from before the high sec war changes and the changes with structures and space and stuff. I mean, a long time ago, I guess you could argue that some people might have said, just dock up and hide, and you can't undock because there's a war, and then you get constantly camped into Jita or Amar stations or something. But now with the changes to the war mechanics and being able to take out a war structure HQ, you're going to get less noobs camped into stations painfully.
I actually first got into PvP because I wanted something to do when EVE University was war decked, and I didn't want to risk my missioning ship, which I wasn't sure I could afford to replace. So I would just fit up cheap frigates from the public corp hangars that they have and go roam low sec for a while.
Yeah, well, I wanted to bring it up because it was something that EVE Uni was having to deal with on a publicity front a long time ago. This was a long time ago.
It was 2012-13 where we had some regulation that people would have to leave the corp and come back in. And I mean, I wasn't there at that time, but of course you can read about it. And it's been a time. And as you said, even 9 years later, it still sort of echoes because EVE is just such an old game. But that is not the case anymore for a long time.
I think that harkens back to one of the problems with the old system. There's problems with the new system too, but with the old war system, where anybody could just deck anybody, like, you have no recourse to make them drop the war. Like, in this system, if you want to deck somebody, you have to put your own skin in the game and have a structure, and then you designate that structure as your war HQ. And if it gets destroyed, you have a 2-week timeout. So the person who you deck, who is the defender, has a way of ending the war forcefully by killing the structure. And if you're just a small, tiny group that is decking a big group, like Eve University is going to be bigger than like a 2-person corp who maybe just wants to pick on them. Eve University can just steamroll that structure. They have a response. In the old system, the only way to respond that would discourage them is to give them no fight. And that was the only way to make them not pick on you because it wasn't fun. Right? That's one of the ways the new War Deck system, for all its problems, and there definitely are problems and new problems at that, for all the problems, it is a superior system to the old system, I believe.
I completely agree. I think that's a great point. It is, there is a way to end a war, and so I guess Eve University can go out there and end the war now, while in the old system there was nothing you could do. I mean,
we're talking too much. We're talking too much about Eve University being war decked. If we get war decked now, Talking in Stations will compensate 1 billion for it. I'm just kidding. I just hope it's not putting the big X on our back.
We'll try to get Arcia to defend you.
Exactly, Arcia. You're in responsibility now.
Yeah, you've just you're now responsible. Okay, I did. There was one question I wanted to ask. I wanted him to kind of address it so that we got updated on it, and let's move on. How do people join you, and how can they get involved with Eve University?
Yeah, that's super important. So Eve University, as I mentioned, it sort of has two parts. It has the in-game cooperation, and I mean, you just go to the wiki, click on Eve University, it's all there. Just go to the uni wiki. There's a little bit of a process. Might take 2 or 3 days to get into the uni, but generally speaking, it's relatively easy to get into the uni. But the second big part, and I think I'd like to sort of plug this a little bit, is that we run a lot of classes, and while our classes require you to be on our Discord, so having a Discord account, they are completely public. And we would love to see more people from outside of Eve Uni join these classes. We do have very simple, we call these the core classes, so really game mechanic classes explaining really the basics of the game. We have a bunch of those. But we do sometimes also have more advanced classes. We have guest speakers like Ashi in Space was a guest speaker talking about fittings and wormhole life. And so we do have also more experienced people coming on, having more advanced classes. And you can find them either. You can follow us on Twitter and we'll do the class announcements there. Unfortunately, the CCP API or the ESI at the moment is not working very well with the in-game calendar. We used to have a great out-of-game calendar, but it's currently not working. But if you join our Discord, we have ping channels for classes, so you can always stay updated. And talking of classes, I'll be holding 4 classes after the Talking in Station thing. I'll be also streaming. So if anybody is very new to Eve and wants to learn more about Eve, they can gladly join me there. And yeah, we have a bunch of classes in all different time zones. So yeah.
Well, I like it. You said something there. You'd be streaming the classes. What's the channel?
Well, it's going to be on my personal channel. We don't have an Eve University channel just yet. We're updating our media presence a little bit. We're trying to update our slightly outdated class library. So we're starting to put some YouTube videos together. I think many people that play Eve for a long time know Seamus Donoghue, who has sort of done, an enormous work in the past in just creating amazing video content. So we're trying to update some of the stuff and make sure that it's updated also with all the patches that happened and the new user interface and so on. And it's a big work, but we have really a lot of volunteers that are doing a fantastic job teaching, sometimes more in lecture style, sometimes they actually take you out in space and practice bookmark making or how to avoid a gate camp with a bubble in nullsec, all different kinds of stuff. So we do educational fleets and we do this kind of more lecture form of classes.
Seamus Donoghue was part of Talking in Stations as well. Brilliant encyclopedic mind that he has. And
yes.
Yeah. So one more thing. What kind of classes do you do? You were saying.
So I'll link the core classes. I'll be linking in the Talking in Same Twitch, so you can see all the core classes that we offer, and then we have, as I said, also more specialized ones about abyssal running and so on. Today I'm going to talk about fitting, fleets, careers, and missions. So 4 classes on these 4 mechanics. But as I said, they're introductory courses, so I guess for the majority of Talking in Station listeners, it's not going to be anything new. But of course, feel free to jump in and say hello later.
Do you have any classes on lore and RP?
We haven't had one in a while, Arcia. You should definitely come over and give us some insights.
I'll attend that class, Arcia. Are you going to do it?
Maybe, yeah. Call me.
Sure.
All right.
Can we get a link as well to like how someone joins the Discord? Isn't it you sign up through your website? Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah, exactly. I'll be posting both in the Talking in Stations stream chat, and then later, if you want to throw them into the video description, you'll have some.
Yeah, thank you. That'd be great, just so more people know how to get in.
All right, awesome. Is there anything else, Hippla, that you wanted to talk about?
I wanted to say a big thanks to you, Mataral, because I mean, I told you this already a few weeks or a few months back, but very often when I watch Talking in Stations, I see a lot of experienced players here, and we have this curse of knowledge. We talk about things with abbreviations and with, right, like people kind of assume everybody else is on the same level of knowledge. And very often you kind of, you push the stop button and you explain to, what is actually being talked about and why is this important, and you give context. And I think especially for new players, this is super important. Otherwise, it all sounds like a language they don't speak. So big cheers for you doing such a great job making Talking in Stations really accessible also to new players like myself and others.
Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate that.
Eve definitely has its own lingo that is hard to know when you first start out right out of the bat without somebody teaching you. So yeah, that's a good point.
Well, the whole point, I think also in Lasers and Lace interview, I probably mentioned that among other interviews, the whole point of my Eve career was to talk to myself many years ago when I was a new player. And so what you're seeing in Talking in Stations is a conversation to us when we were just starting out. And that's how we tried to address it. So we knew when we got lost, when somebody said, oh yeah, just a sino this, sino that. And it's like, what's a sino? If I could know that, then you give me a tool to unlock the rest of the meaning of this conversation and I can participate. So that's what our ambition is. Okay. By the way, thank you for that compliment. I take it on behalf of everybody at TIS. We all do that. And I want to thank you for making some time to hang out with us, Hippla.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
You sound like a communications director. Do you have any training or anything? Or are you just naturally articulate?
I don't know. I'm not even a native speaker. I'm trying not to have too much of a German accent.
I know. That's awesome. Well,
can I ask you a question? You're relatively new to the game, right?
Yeah. I would say a year and 2 months now.
Okay, so you were a bit lost. And did you just find university and you were like, okay, I'm going to join them and learn? Did someone recommend for you to join university? How did you find Eve University?
So I had tried the game a few years back, and I remember how I found them, and it was simply through the wiki. I started Googling stuff that I didn't understand in the game, and I hit the wiki, and then I saw, okay, there's Eve University. What is this all about? They offered classes, which sounded interesting to me, and that's sort of how I got there. You would be surprised at how many new players think that Eve University is just the wiki. They don't understand that there's an in-game corporation that actually offers this community with the different campuses and so on. So yeah, I hope that having this appearance and Talking in Station can hopefully encourage others to send people our way if they seem lost in space. And whenever you kill someone that says, under 30 days, replace their ship and send them to Eve Uni. We'll be happy to teach them so that they can be a more engaging target next time.
That's a great recommendation as well, actually. But so you joined Eve University, say, a year ago, completely new, and within a year now, you have learned so much, and you have worked your way up to be the communications director of Eve University.
I know that my segment is finishing, but I have to correct. I'm not the director. I'm not a director.
Sorry,
I'm just a manager. I'm just a manager, whatever that means. I have a fantastic team of 7 or 8 staff members, so that are helping me with all the communication stuff. And of course, I'm standing on the shoulders of giants. There's so many staff members that are just running the organization and all the classes. So I can't really take much credit for all of that stuff.
No, I used to be communication staff member.
Oh yeah, cool.
I think it just speaks to how effective Eve University is as a tool. Not alone have you managed to learn the game, you've managed to work your way up, and you're now helping out and giving back and teaching others, and already within a year. It's great.
We'll be talking more, Hippla. I have some notes to compare with you.
Cool.
All right. Thanks very much for joining us here. Next, we're going to move on to some war talk. I'm bringing in one of our favorite, our favorite war streamer, one of our favorite streamers, and that is Ron USMC will join us in just a second. and we'll go over some of the war news. Also, a little bit later, we're going to meet Gideon, who is a supposed spy in that Rocket X threw out of Rekking Crew. And there's a lot of news in the Rekking Crew front and the faction war front and how those things actually come together. So stay tuned. We'll be back in just a second here. All right, let me move Ron in. Welcome back, Talking in Stations. Hope you enjoyed those commercials from EVE Online. RC and I are here, and we're now joined by Rich Richmond. How's it going, Rich?
Hello.
No longer walking that country road.
Yeah. You'll want to go back and listen to what I said about you while you were transitioning to your home station from your walk. But that's for later. Want to let everybody know that we have Ron USMC with us. How's it going, Ron?
Good. How you guys doing, man?
Really good. Listen, for those that don't know, that watch TIS and don't know Ron's work, first of all, shame on you. But second of all, Ron USMC on Twitch has great camera work, great explanations. If you're interested in this war, in the war zone or test, there's a lot more to his coverage than just war, but nobody does it better than Ron. So I would definitely sign up, check that out, subscribe, follow, whatever. You won't regret it. So Ron, you've been busy.
Yeah, man. I took a little break. It was just starting to get a lot, and now I'm back, and we're ramping up again and having a good time. You know, hitting the iHubs and keep stars, lots and lots of keep stars. It's getting a lot more fun now.
Yeah. So you're from Test Alliance. We'll put you on the Pappy side of this conflict. And you guys, everybody in this channel can join in if you want. But tell me about where we are in the war right now, what stage the war is in, basically.
I would say that mainly the war in the past couple of months has split off into the outside conflicts and then the inside conflicts. With the inside conflicts, we have pretty much taken everything in Delve, salve-wise, except for the final constellation, which is the 1DQ and then that constellation. And just through numbers, basically, we've made it almost, it's extremely difficult to defend against. So right now that while we have all the Sov and Dove, except for that constellation, we are killing the industry and all of their structures outside of that constellation. After that happens, we'll begin to move in to the siege on 1DQ, and I think that will be an amazing event. And then the outside conflicts are Init, Bastion, they're assorted third parties that have been out burning Catch, Impasse, Tenerifis, and, you know, just getting in lots and lots of brawls out there, and, I don't know, doing good work, to be honest, just doing good work out there.
You mean the Imperium or somebody's doing good work? Yeah,
the Imperium,
doing good work.
Yeah, Bastion, Init, all those guys out there. They've got third parties with them, and they're hitting structures, taking Sov. Basically,
I want to talk
go ahead.
about those. I want to talk about those third parties for a minute, because it seems like they're the ones that are really a wild card. We know Pappy and Imperium are going at it, mostly in Delve or the surrounding areas. Then there's a counteroffensive happening in Legacy, the backfield, right, where Legacy came from, since they're not there to defend it as well. But really the wild card is Dreadbomb, right? Like they are definitely causing some problems with Fire Coalition. They made Fire Coalition have to pull back to fight them in Legacy space, as opposed to staying up forward and fighting in Delve. They've also taken some space, not to own it, but just to deprive other people of it. They are forcing the issue for Legacy out there, aren't they?
Yeah, and, you know, that's our old friend, right? That's Sado, you know, that I spent, 1,000 hours with fighting Fraternity. And, yeah, he's over there. I was talking to Billy about this a couple of weeks ago, and I kind of see Dreadbomb's point, which is they're like they want content, etc. And it's ironic that they would join in it and just kind of steamroll a little bit, but it's content nonetheless. And I was surprised to see them, but to be honest, it's war, and that's the kind of thing that happens, and it's all good.
Are Dreadbomb flying with Init in the same fleet, or just both hitting the same area at the same time?
Yeah, if you ask them, that's when the space lawyers come in, right? And then it's at what point did they talk to each other last? Did they know that they were going to this specific timer? And it's just, come on. We know. Come on.
I mean, timers are generally public knowledge. Like, I show up to random timers and shoot both sides. Does Dreadbomb also shoot in it, or do they not shoot in it?
Well, I can't, speak definitively, but I heard that Dreadbomb and Init were fighting a couple of days ago, but I haven't even looked into it that much.
Well, that would be news, because there was an argument between Villy, leader of Test, and Sado, former FC from Test, now leader of Dreadbomb. And that was on, I believe, a Trash Talk Tuesday episode where they were in the same room at the same time, and there was some discussion about, hey, man, what side are you on? Because you seem to be very cozy with Init. You're putting out capitals when Init's in the area, even though Init said, yeah, we're not going to bother your capitals. Go ahead and put them out if you want. That's a lot of collusion-type behavior. So then for that to switch after that conversation, I wonder if Sado is trying to send a message to Villy or of some sort saying, like, see, we're actually neutral. We're just fighting anybody.
I feel like Dreadbomb's a type of group that would work with whoever if it gets them content. Like, if they get better content by trusting Init to not drop their caps, they're going to do that, right? Like, I feel like they would also help Poppy shoot Init if it got them more content in that direction. But burning the locals is usually more content than the roaming game. Sorry.
But let's not forget that that RC are like junkyard dogs, right? Like, they're going to go to where the meat is, right? Because they didn't even want Pravi. they just blobbed the shit out of them until they left, right? Like that
kind of sat on them until they broke.
Yeah, like I mean, Pravi been there for 6 years. Nobody wants Pravi. Like, come on, man. And they just harass him, but that wasn't enough, right? They chased him to Great Wildlands until they had to join NC, right? So that's sort of the Eve thing, right? Which is a small or medium-sized group has trouble getting into the Sov game now. And that's where renting kind of comes into play, because all they're going to do is be, food for an RC or for another, medium to small group that sees, oh, such and such is on the menu now.
The pursuit thing is a little troubling. It starts to look like griefing to some degree. So, chasing somebody after they're defeated and clearly don't want anymore. I guess it depends on what's motivating the whole thing.
It's kind of like, I think, hitting someone when they're down. It kind of depends on.
Yeah, but if somebody's still, you're right. If somebody's still, I don't know. I hate to put it in playground fight terms, but if somebody's still talking back to you after they're on the ground, that's different than somebody who's on the ground whimpering. Like, there's a different sense of mercy at that point.
That's a good point. Yeah, sorry, I take my.
I mean, I'm just don't take it back. It's a good point. Anyway, what's interesting here to me is like how they've been a wild card in this, Ron. You've been watching them. Not just Dread Bomb, but other groups too, right? Like Initiative is not able to necessarily work in U.S. time zone as well as they do in EU time zone. So they put a lot of support behind U.S. time zone timers and Legacy Space, and that seems to be that combination, third party plus Initiative, seems to have worked.
Yeah.
I mean,
Go ahead.
RC lives a lot out of like Derelict and Providence, and they pretty much burn anybody who's not friendly with them. Like they get framed as the bad guys a lot because they're strong, and maybe you think they should show more mercy to CVA and Pravi Block than they did, but I think near the end they tried to back off, but it was a little too late, and they did kind of kill their own content in Providence. But on like the other hand, they're like also one of the only groups that's standing up to snuff. So they are doing quote unquote heroic things too. So it's never that simple. I think they're just mostly a group that looks for anything to kill that they kill.
We should make the point that RC and Dread Bomb sometimes have, or Rekking Crew and Dread Bomb, or Purple Helmeted Warriors and Dread Bomb, right, have different objectives and stuff. A Dread Bomb actually is the one that went to Wicked Creek to kind of pursue Apocalypse Now and some other groups. That's what it looked like when you're kind of chasing somebody who's already defeated. I don't think they went up to Syndicate to mess with CVA that I know of. They might have.
That Syndicate doesn't border Derelict. Derelict borders Great Wildlands and Providence, so they were still in the area.
Yeah, there's a long-running joke that most of the old RC members forgot that a game exists outside of 7 light years around Kamal and YMP.
So I, for one, do want to say that I do think the ye old Providence was a good thing to have around. Like my first trip into Null was because I heard that Providence was an NRDS area, and then I face checked into Providence and got killed by like a bubble camp, right? And then I just realized, hey, it's not that bad actually, right? And I was less scared of Null after that because I went in, I did a little stuff, I died, it was fine, and I kind of miss that area existing, but at the same time, I don't think killing somebody in Eve is like the wrong thing to do, because it's a game about spaceships making other spaceships explode.
Look at you now, killer. Ron, so in Delve, let's go back to Delve here. 2 keep stars went down, or was there more keep stars for the Imperium?
Which day? I mean, you got more specific.
F2O keep star went down.
Yep.
DTAC W keep star went down. Those two are important keep stars. I mean, Imperium won't say they're important anymore because they don't really matter. But we've talked at length about why those two were important. Check out Friday's show, Friday's show. What do you think? What's your assessment of Delve right now? Are you guys just running around defending iHub so that they don't get flipped back?
Yeah, I mean, they put up, like we had 2 big fights last night over an iHub, 2 iHubs, one in Delve and then one in Faith. And I mean, the only way I can describe what happened last night is it was a war crime. I don't know. It
what
was
do you mean
rough
by
for
that?
them. It was absolute destruction. Like, we caught them on a bubble. They had 3 different, 2 small fleets, and then a big Munin fleet. They had a smaller Serb fleet. They had Vexers out and everything. And I mean, I think it was like 51 bill to 6 bill or something. And that was over an iHub, a Keepstar iHub, right? That we have a vested interest in keeping, because the 35-day timer, right? When that hits 35 days, then we put up the jammer, and then we commence hitting it. I always hear a lot of, critique about the strategy, that we're using. But if we don't have a jammer, that doesn't mean there's going to be a fight, right? It just gives them another avenue or another door to be able to attack us when we don't need to do that. So I think 3 keep stars died in the past 5 or 6 days. We have, I think, I'm not sure the exact numbers, like 23, 24 left or something outside of 1DQ, and then we have the 5 in 1DQ. And 1DQ is going to be, that's going to be a fight. I've called that like a knife fight in a bathtub. It's just going to be crazy. It's going to be crazy. So, and they're kind of, getting hyped up for that. They're bunkered down. And then every now and then they're trying to, maybe do a reinforcement, or something like that. And then that'll amount to, some sort of medium-sized fight, big fight. I think there was 1,000 people in that fight last night. Yeah. And it continues.
So with the 1DQ, with what happened with the second M2 with the server imploding on itself, how do you think a fight will happen in 1DQ? Because I feel like it'd be hard to have fewer people than were in M2 and 1DQ.
Yeah, it's a really good question, because I think, it's going to come down to, after we have, everything accomplished outside of 1DQ, and we start picking away, right, like a sledgehammer, right, on a wall, and we just keep hitting it. I don't know if it will be one huge battle kind of thing, as much as, maybe dropping a structure and then a fight occurs, and then dropping another one and a fight occurs. And they said, well, that they're just going to, shore up, right, and sit there. And if 5,000-6,000 people are going to live in 1DQ, that's okay too. We'll just keep them there. And that's going to be their game. All they do, they log in and they protect 1DQ. Good. Keep on doing that. And we'll just, keep it like a little prison cell. And,
I mean, from my perspective, if I had like a home system and then content in every direction, that sounds like an awesome day.
Yeah. We joked about, hey guys, we're surrounded. And the answer is, that's great. We can shoot in every direction now. So I think that's kind of the same. I convict.
But if both sides are having fun, isn't that just the win for everybody then at that point?
I think,
what if you are the content?
Right. Ron,
I've been the content.
Well, here's the question for everybody, and that is, like, what point does the war really hurt? Because it seems like everybody's having a great time. It's a big dance party, and everybody smiles. Like, at some point, is it going to hurt somebody one way or the other? Is is the pain not here yet?
They're hurting. Everybody's hurting. They're hurting. They're just on that denial train, right? But they're hurting for sure.
Are you hurting? Are you?
Absolutely. Init and Bastion and those guys over there, they've been doing good work, man. Like, I remember last time I was on and I was talking about Bastion coming to Esoteria. They did good stuff there too. Bringing in, interesting concepts and working in small and medium games effectively. They're doing good stuff and they're burning stuff out there and they're accomplishing a lot. So yeah, no, I mean, we are absolutely hurting, right? Like, M2 Part 2, where I consider it fighting CCP, we lost that big,
right.
Like
I saw that we were like, this kill mail should just say CCP over and over and over again. That was pretty funny.
Yeah, I mean, but it hurt us. Everybody's hurting. They've had to ask for money a couple of times, right? Like, that's kind of where we wanted it to be. We knew that we were going to be hurt doing this, and that's okay. Anything is better than the way it was, right?
Are you seeing the hurt within the Alliance run?
No,
because
just kill boards.
Just kill boards? As the wars progress, I've noticed that several ranking members of various different alliances have burnt out and, moved elsewhere away from the war.
Well, that's just natural, and that's natural. Like, you can't really... So, and actually I was just talking to John Hartley, from the Imperium before I came here, and he got burnt out, around Christmas. That's natural. Like, the amount of fleets and the amount of time and effort that FCs and leadership put in, remember that this war is unlike any war that has ever happened in EVE, ever. And, I was talking to Grath and Headliner about this stuff, that, we as, kind of EVE players and EVE FCs, we kind of had this like internal schedule, right? Where a war will go like 2 months, something big will happen, and there's going to be negotiations and moving and this and that. But it hasn't happened in this one, right? Yeah. It's like everyone goes in super hardcore, psyched up, and then it just continues. And it's on and like, oh my God, people just need breaks.
Do you think that there's some kind of win condition for the war that would end it, that would mean the war's over?
I mean, the aim really is to beat Imperium down into our level again, right? So their power or their ability to make war cannot be what it was or what it is now. So
how will you know when they are beaten down to your level again?
Yeah, we won't. Maybe when, they move to Losec or Declan or wherever and we see how much they have, but this won't end until we know it's complete, right?
I think the reason there's no, I have a lot of trouble describing this to people who are saying, wait till, Pappy breaks up and Test is alone, then we'll kill him. I hear that from Imperium occasionally. And I can't stress enough how the world has totally changed and the aftermath of this war won't look like anything we've seen before. So thinking in terms of the past, what happens after a war, people go back and do their thing. They either rent or farm or take over moons or what. None of that is going to look the same. I think what you'll see after this, Ron, I want your take on this too, is wardens of areas that will essentially occupy an area waiting for Imperium to surface, I think. So you'll have a warden of the north, a warden of the east, a couple wardens of the south. Like, I think that is the kind of domination we're going to see. I wouldn't necessarily call it a blue donut, but it's going to be like Game of Thrones, where Imperium are the White Walkers and the zombies, and then you have these wardens guarding different areas. And I kind of feel like that's how the game is going to shape up after that. What do you think of that hot take?
I absolutely love it. We're going to have the Imperium watch, and we're going to have a board.
I almost think there's going to be like a base swap, and we might end up seeing Imperium and Legacy in Catch.
Well, that's why it's kind of interesting to see how Dreadbomb has kind of interfered with that plan. If that was the plan, they've kind of screwed that up by opening up this space. Like, who's the warden of the South? Like, I don't know who it was supposed to be in the past, but
if they did move to Catch, though, that would be good for us. I mean, that's great.
Yeah. I don't think what you will see is a surrendering of any kind from Imperium. There's just no way I can see that happening. There won't. It's possible. Anything can happen. Anything. But I don't think you'll see Imperium basically say, okay, we've had enough. Please leave us alone. Like, that is something unimaginable. I think laying low for a few months, because, if you think about it, there is a scenario here where the Super Capital Fleet, which is the power core of the Imperium, because it's huge and it can wipe out anybody. You can see it in the numbers that are presented on Reddit recently. But also that weaponry is going to have to go somewhere. It's either going to stay in 1DQ, in which case the war is not over, or Imperium wins the war if they cannot be broken out of 1DQ. But at some point, they have to die there or move to Ermelin, low-sec space, through asset safety, and then and then what? Like, what happens to them at that point? They would have to wait a while before they try to move them out of Ermelin, I would imagine.
Well, but
where to?
Let me describe that. So one, I get somebody in chat, but so why it would be good for us if they all move to Catch? Because it's right next door, and we can just move stuff over and continue fighting. And number two, so when we talk about the Imperium, right? We're talking about the organization as a whole, right? The massive organization that it is. We want that to be weaker, right? But, and obviously I'm not saying, anyone's setting, but if Init wanted to go their own way, then they are no longer part of the Imperium. If Bastion wanted to go their own way, they would no longer be part of the Imperium. So it's a size, but it's based on many organizations that are a part of it, right? So, if you want to break up, this comic book store, you take out 2 rows of the comics or whatever, right? Like it's not like, we're going to hunt, Init down forever or Bastion down forever. It's like, we just want that massive organization to be weaker.
If it's an unconditional surrender, like say the destruction of the leadership, or to make them all quit the game, I don't think that's going to be possible. If it's seeking something like that, then what's going to happen is an unconditional surrender at this point is off the table. Conditional, I don't think either side will be willing to admit the humiliation of a conditional surrender.
There's not going to be a surrender.
Yeah, and there's no deals on our side either. This is to the end.
There's not going to be a surrender, and none of the alliances are going to be destroyed. I think either idea is kind of crazy, but so I don't think.
Well, what happens to? Here's my question: what happens to an Imperium? Let's put it all together. An Imperium that essentially has no place to go because they can't put up a keep star. Maybe they can, but I'm being theoretical here. Like, do you wait it out? Do you wait 6 months? And what does that do to an organization? Do you say everybody take a 6-month vacation, come back, and then we'll wait
honestly,
these guys out?
I think my gut feeling is that 1DQ holds.
A de facto ceasefire, a de jure stalemate, an armistice? No.
It's hard to imagine, isn't it? But Arcia thinks 1DQ holds, and that's definitely a possibility.
So, my reasoning is that the entire membership of both coalition can't be jammed into one system. We kind of proved that, right? like without the game breaking. And I think the only way to lower the numbers, like participation numbers, or to like hit and then like not form and hope they form fewer people next time, like was said last week or the week before. But I think that also hurts your own numbers, right? So I think it's hard to whittle down the enemy numbers without whittling down your own numbers out of kind of the whole process of like hitting and then not showing up is boring, right?
How healthy is this?
It's not. Killing their stuff is really, really therapeutic and fun.
My God.
Maybe I'm wrong. I'm not obviously associated with either group
Ron,
and have no horse in the race.
Ron, I see your psychological warfare going on here.
No, I mean, it's not really us, like, it's not really test as much as, PanFam, right? And when a lot of, the people, and there's some PanFam in chat that can say it, but, one of the things that sort of, it was like on my radar, the tribute war, et cetera, and I was kind of watching it from the sidelines, et cetera, but a lot of them, that was kind of their introduction into EVE, which is getting all of their stuff burnt down and having to move. And that's like their first thing, right? And a lot of them have that kind of old, hey, this is for, our Keepstar, like stuff from, a year or two ago, right? So for them, they're on it, it's really kind of funny to watch how lack of chill they have.
I've heard a lot of people suggest that Horde hasn't really been around long enough to have the sort of grudge that some people in NC have against the Imperium, for example, but a lot of the foundational experiences of Horde as an organization were being kicked around by the Imperium. And so now Horde really likes looking for revenge. And, well, in addition to those experiences, a lot of Horde's member corporations are from Circle of Two, for example.
I do think that this war is really good for small gang and PvPers who, like, for me, Delve is, when I get a Thera hold to Delve, I'm so happy. I can just show up and shoot everybody, right? I think, like, the last week we showed up at a TCU timer in Impasse, I think, and had some amazing content. Like, the kind of unique atmosphere in, like, Catch and Delve right now is the first time, like, a null region to me felt like an actual war zone. Because I'm from, like, the low-sec war zone that feels like a war zone that's chaotic. And I kind of like that chaotic feel. And so, I don't know, I'm fine if you guys keep fighting forever.
Is this really healthy to keep on fighting forever? Because as much as it is damaging to the enemy and it destroys their infrastructure, it is a double-edged sword where one would point to the enemy but another would point to yourself. And I noticed this because there is a Horde director, and at the time a diplomat, or he was a director, that I had previous conflict with. He was the person who made a drop in the bucket part of the vernacular. But his name was Agonos, and he burnt out, I think, during the course of this war, and he resigned. He quit the game. And I'm Gregorian, I've spoken about other directors of other groups burning out and leaving these coalitions. So how much benefit is this war going to do if it damages you equally as much as it damages the enemy, with your best directors and infrastructure and individuals that get things done all resigning or quitting or finding elsewhere to go because of burnout?
Well, I have a link on Facebook for 20,000 free Candy Crush points for them. This is Eve, baby. Get with it. Let's go.
While Agionos and a couple of other Horde directors had, like Nydia and Quim, had stepped down early in the war, I think Horde has done a really good job in managing burnout. Like, I was kind of worried about how things would proceed when Alpha Star Pilot decided to leave the game, since he was the main FC and Horde's deployment was technically his personal SIG, but Horde has really done a good job in managing that burnout, and keeping people from burning out too far, even if a few people like Aegionos did seem to burn out.
Do you think we'll see a brain drain, an exodus, a flight of, I guess, capital as in human capital after the war? I know for a fact some people are, well, after the war, and given they've preened up their reputation, they might be ambitious enough to set off on their own adventure.
Well, that's what Tsero did after the Frat War, and that's what a few other people have done after a lot of different wars.
I feel like people moving around also gives other people a chance to step up. Like, I started FCing because I was forced to, and then I kind of liked it. And I feel like it wouldn't be bad if new people maybe had a chance to fill in old shoes and play.
Baleful, I wanted to say something. I keep forgetting to say it, and it doesn't mean much. But I saw you. Was watching your stream the other day, and I'll tell you what. From about a year and a half ago, when I sat down and watched you for like more than a half hour, your FCing is getting really good. Like before, you were kind of. But it's actually really good, man. Especially for like small gang stuff. You're getting your calls are very clean, looking good, man.
Thank you. All
right, Ron. Oh, go ahead.
Win or lose, this war will be the last for quite a few people.
I'm telling you, Warden of the North will be Fraternity. Warden of the East be Horde. Warden of the South, I don't actually know.
I think,
I ran out of wardens.
I think both sides are aware of the human casualty and the human burnout, and I think Pappy's strategy is that the Imperium burns out before they do, and the Imperium strategy is that Pappy burns out before they do. Particularly as we get closer to the 1DQ, and then however long 1DQ takes itself, managing people in burnout is just, it's just part of logistics in war.
Yeah.
Is it going to be the new guys, the medium guys, or the really old guys that leave first?
Well, that we'll have to see. There's no way to know. All right, Ron, listen, great coverage. I watched you yesterday. Even small fights are exciting to watch with your 3D mouse and camera movements. And it's amazing how visual EVE fights are now. With somebody at the helm like you, they can describe it, give context to it, and then actually in the middle of combat show you what's going on just with great visuals, great camera angle. We're in a different world,
man. Love it. And they just added a little small thing in the settings now, specifically for the 3D mice. It's great. They've been doing a lot on the back end for us. So it's
CCP
great.
has?
Yeah. CCP,
yeah. Yeah, it was great. I could see like the bubbles, the Hicks dropping bubbles or the dictors, and I was like, oh, that fleet, is it going to get caught or not? We're catching part of it. And it was just, you could see like the fleet starting to get eaten up, but some people got away. And you can literally cheer that kind of combat real time. So I think we're in a different place with watching EVE Online unfold.
Yeah, the latest viewers are so spoiled compared to us back in the day, watching the blue dots move around and having no idea
who's winning? That red dot?
The crosses before they changed it way back when. I missed those.
It's a different world.
And the 3 bars instead of the curved bars.
Yeah, I used to like the square targets instead of the circles, but whatever.
Yeah, I missed the 3 bars. Right.
That's right, the 3 bars. Yeah. All right, Ron, thanks very much for hanging out with us. Next, we're going to go to our last guest, and then we'll talk about some quality of life changes. Ron, if you want to stick around, feel free. If you have to take off, I know you've been streaming, so you can take off as well. But thanks for coming. Next, we'll meet Gideon, who was thrown out of Rekking Crew. We'll get his side of the story, and then we'll talk about Rekking Crew and what they've been up to with Arcia just after these messages from EVE Online. Welcome back. I am Matterall here with Arcia and Richmond. We also have in our room here Abby Rova and Grigorin. And we also have our new guest, Gideon Zendikar. Is that right, Gideon?
Zendikar?
Gideon Zendikar, yes.
Yeah, that's what I said. All right, Gideon, let's talk about you and Rekking Crew. Now, recently we had Rocket X on, and this is the second time we've had him on. Actually, no, it's the first time we've had him on since he wrote something to his group, and that got leaked into the Reddit press. And so a spy was caught and thrown out, and he was saying he was aware of other spies, and they're just watching them, that sort of a thing. You're the guy that was thrown out. So what happened? What's your side of the story?
Yeah, that's what I was asking myself for a very long time. What happened? Basically, I was in RC for a year or longer. I've been actively FCing for them, and I've actively FC'd in the group before I joined RC. And I was basically just on a walk, and my real life friend that I pulled into my corporation actually called me on my phone and was like, "Hey dude, there's something happening on our Discord. People are saying that you're a spy." And I was like, "Is this a joke? Is my friend just joking with me?" So I went home, started up my computer, opened Discord, and I realized, all my channels are gone. This is not a joke. So basically, I just tried to figure out what was happening there. And basically, I was accused of being an internet spy without ever having a big relationship with any Idit or Imperium parties in the first place. So I was just sitting at that place and was wondering, how did I end up in that place? And yeah, that's basically where I am still right now. And I'm still trying to figure out all the stuff, because Rocket, of course, won't share what he has, because that could people could think about stuff, how he got to the information that he claims he has. And I cannot look at his claims and try to figure out how I actually got in this place in the first time.
So your reaction was, what? How did this happen to me? And next is like, you can't have it proven to you because it might give away secrets of their anti-spying apparatus.
Yeah, so basically I'm stuck at square one for now, but all I could accomplish, like, for now is like who are the people that can tell that I was not spying? It's people that he doesn't trust because they're in it. So I'm like stuck at this point. And it's just people in it saying, hey, he never spied for us. You caught the wrong guy. And obviously Rocket cannot trust that intel because he's thinking that these are the enemies or the perceived enemies at the moment.
Why wouldn't it spy on Rekking Crew anyway? They're not really opposed to each other. In fact, Dreadbomb and Rekking Crew are kind of working together.
Everybody spies on everybody.
You spy on your friends, you spy on your enemies, you keep them close.
People spy on the militias, all right?
There's also some conflict between Init and ASCII. Like, for example, there was a time, I think it was in EX6, where Init tried to aggro Fortizar, and ASCII had Legacy destroy that Fortizar because it had some jump ranges that ASCII didn't like as well. So there have been times where ASCII has joined Legacy in destroying Init assets. So there is some tension there.
So Skyhawk Everhart says, good name for once. Rocket talked about how he confirmed it on TIS the other day, and Shines confirmed it as well. Are you aware of that?
Yeah, I can talk to this. Rocket claimed that Shines confirmed it. There's a Reddit post that I can link to you in the Discord as well, where Dark Shines himself says that he never said to Rocket that I was a spy, and that he actually denied the claim that Rocket has it. And just Rocket linked it in the same thread as well in Reddit. They just... Shines wrote something that could be taken into two ways, and he meant something different than Rocket understood in that situation.
Let me ask you. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Let me ask you this: how many characters do you play on? Because you're a pretty advanced player, right?
Yes, I'm an advanced player, and I decided that I don't want to be part of the capital game because at that point in time, people could still fit silos on every ship, and every time you engage the solo brutics in Nullsec, basically people just drop capitals on you, and I was like, I don't want to be part of this. I just try to kill people that actually try to drop people, and I started FCing in that regard, that I took smaller ships and actually killed bigger people that tried to kill solo robots that went through their space by capital dropping them every time they open a silo. So I'm still on just one account, and I use this one account to do everything.
Now I'm going to put my red tinted glasses on. So you plead not guilty on the whole accusation of spying.
Nice glasses, I like them.
I agree, the glasses are nice.
And you're stating that whatever Rocket X said in regards to hearing his own voice being broadcasted and relayed is totally untrue. You're not a spy. This is completely wrong. And whatever their counterintelligence doing, it's a crap job.
Yeah, apparently. Like, from my point of view, yes. But I don't know. Maybe there was some circumstances that he just took like a 80-20% chance in his eyes, and maybe he just took the wrong calculation down. That's what I'm saying, and people can trust my words or not trust them. That's how spying in EVE works. But in the end, I'm still trying to clear my name over time. Let's see if I ever get the first unburning of a spy in EVE history. That would be funny.
First unburning, yeah.
Was there ever any reason for them to doubt your loyalty, in your opinion? Do you feel that there should ever have been any doubt, or or do you believe you had unquestioned loyalty?
Rocket said it himself that he tried to disprove it at every point, and the circumstances would be too damning that I had to be the spy. Like, he claims he heard my voice on another Init channel when I was in his FC channel where there's just 5 people inside, right? So I don't know how he got that impression or if that is actually true. Yeah.
Where are you now?
But, I'm part of a Farah group right now, so I'm basically doing what I did before. I just take a group out, and with that group, I can just do what I did before, just try kill bigger targets with smaller stuff. And I'm more focused on smaller scale PvP right now.
Yeah. So one of the criticisms I heard was that you were very helpful. You were an FC. You're very capable, yet you only had one character. And that was very suspicious.
That was my conscious decision in the first place, because I ran into people when I started playing in the first time, and everybody opened a sign when I didn't want to be part of the people that have like 5 accounts, 4 capitals, and then they use a bait brutix to roam through their own space, waiting for somebody to aggress them and then just drop them with capitals. I tried to be a counter movement, just using one account, getting people into. I like using retributions. A lot of people that have been in my alliances know that. And we just took retribution fleets, and then we tried to kill these capitals that were dropping on people. Very successfully so.
What's the shame here? You've been called out publicly by name, and you're here to defend yourself. That's why you would be here, to defend yourself.
Yes.
Is it a problem for you to be labeled a spy in this game?
It can be a problem, yes, especially in the future, because people assume that I would be an inner spy, or they don't want to risk to taking me into their alliance or in any leadership role. Like FC always has like some leadership components into it.
Why wouldn't you just join in it if that's the only group that would take you? Or maybe they wouldn't take you. I don't know.
Yeah, they could think it's a free digest game again, right? So I don't know. I could maybe join in it if I approached them, but I have enough of politics right now. I don't want to be in a nullsec block alliance right now.
You hear that, Arcia?
Enough for now.
Rich had enough of nullsec politics.
Well, he's.
Do you want low-sec politics?
You're in desync right now, and I think
politics.
I've encountered you a few times. You guys are around or close to Pure Blind every now and then. It's a small gang group.
Yes.
Right. So I think what we wanted to do is give you an opportunity to say your side of the story. We've talked to Rocket X about his side. This may not change the situation, but at least people can hear from you from the actual player.
Yeah.
Yeah, to try to... what's interesting about spies is a lot of times spies actually just go native. They actually like the people they're spying on so much, they're like, I'm going to stick around here instead.
So I've heard somebody say that they'd rather have... Like, it's just saying that I've heard passed around. They'd rather have a helpful spy than an unhelpful normal member. Because a lot of times spies bring you content. Spies will go above and beyond to appear to be super helpful and trustworthy and move up and get that information. And a lot of times they're not. A lot of times they're doing more for you than they're taking away from you. And I kind of like that attitude, right?
Yeah, honestly, useful.
Yeah, they're being so useful. It's actually a plus, even though they bring minuses about being deceitful. I love that.
You talk about how people who could disprove it, Rocket X doesn't trust anymore. What about the people in Dreadbomb? How many of those are you, generally trusted you or you were close to? Are they unable to, vouch for your loyalty?
I guess they did, but in the end, it's a leadership decision, right? And they kind of follow with their leadership. I'm still in contact with a lot of them and writing with them. Like, they are doubting it in many instances, but they cannot disprove something that their leadership has decided. So they cannot disprove it, and I cannot prove it that I'm innocent. So it's a bind situation right now.
If you are able to prove you're innocent and they offered you a chance back, would you take it?
Probably not. I would have to see how they came to the decision that I actually spied on them in the first place. Like, how much evidence has to be there to kick somebody that was really active for 1 year and immensely helped in building up their TRC alliance, the alliance I was part of before.
Mm. Well, we'll be talking to you again because we're writing a story about Maya, who is the long-term spy in Guardians of the Galaxy's, aka Dead Coalition, and I want to write that story out. Get it all on for the record and stuff. And that was a successful spy operation. And then we can talk about your unsuccessful spy operation, or an innocent man gets accused. So we can cover both sides of the issue. That would be interesting.
One or the other. Yeah.
I'm actually quite curious of this too, because several of the members of Dreadbomb, I believe including their IT head and a few other individuals, including one FC, went to Dreadbomb because they were falsely implicated in spying. Also, they state they believe they were blacklisted from tests for apparently spying, but they've stated their innocence, and but they are now in Dreadbomb. So it's curious in your case that you're also, according to you, falsely implicated for spying, and they forced you out when some of Dreadbomb's infrastructure was made by.
I was part of TRC. That's another alliance with NRC. I was not part of Dreadbomb.
In Rekking Crew, but my apologies. But
the Rogue Consortium, I think that's
the Rogue Consortium. Yeah. Now I'm mixing things, but I do know that there are some people who set up the infrastructure for Dreadbomb and RC that were falsely implicated for spying in the past, and that's why they joined there. But it's curious that you're now being, implicated for something that you say you're innocent of.
Politics keeps turning, I guess. The wheel of politics keeps turning.
Nothing ever changes.
Now it's my turn.
Yeah. Well, Gideon, it's nice to meet you. Thanks much for coming by, and good luck in the future. I hope that Scarlet Letter wears off, or if not, you could always just extract all your skills and put them on a different character and lose the 5 million, I guess, if you wanted to start over.
See you.
All right, thanks. Okay, we're going to move on to the next part of Talking in Stations. This is the last part. It's going to be quality of life changes and stuff. Oh, but before we go there, Arcia, tell us what happened in LoSec, which is an unusual thing.
Oh, Friday night. Well, for anybody who doesn't know, the LoSec Amar Minmatar Warzone has been getting burned down by Snuffed Out. Snuffed Out is one of the biggest baddies of LoSec. And they've been destroying structures left and right. They destroyed most of Serenity Syndicate, Australian time zone organization, their structures in Taff and Garkula, including Asbels and Fortizars. They lost their staging Fortizar. In AU time zone, Snuff grew up in AU time zone. Got bigger in AU time zone, able to beat the likes of Serenity Syndicate, Siege Green, and the Minmatar and Amar militias. But this last Friday night, Friday morning, actually, a really early timer, 14:30 or so, there was a Fortizar in Sosala. That was a Siege Green Fortizar that basically everybody formed together again, and Snuff stood down. There's been a lot of these engagements. There's a really, really good fight in Secede like a week or so ago where Snuff destroyed a Siege Green Asbel, I want to say, but it was like 90 billionist to 110 billionist killed in Snuff's favor. I think I mentioned that last week. But there's been a lot of these big engagements in the war zone, and as long as there's still structures around, I expect them to continue. A lot of groups that don't normally work together are working together. The Rekking Crew, Siege Green, the Amar, and Minmatar militias. Everybody has an axe to grind with Snuff, and we might get some more interesting fights in LoSec. It's kind of weird how this war that might be shaping up in LoSec is turning out. Like I said, RC is one of the few groups willing to stand up to Snuff. So I'm hoping that all the groups that are doing so, I hope we're successful, but I hope we get good fights, most of all.
Yeah, well, you assembled a heck of a armada, right?
Yeah, there were full fleets. For a lot of the faction warfare people, they didn't know a fleet could be full, right? Because I got invited into a squad command position, and I was inviting the Minmatar, and we hit max members, and people are still like Xing up, like, I'm not getting invited to the fleet, and I'm like, the fleet's full. We're talking about overflow, right? Like, what about the Siege Green fleet? That fleet's full too, right? Join the Cap fleet, right? It was really interesting for a lot of people who are used to the smaller gangs to see that many people trying to band together for something like that.
Yeah. I love the fact they didn't know a fleet could fill up at 250 or 255. What is it, 255?
256.
255.
It's 255 because it's that whatever exponent of 2 minus 1.
255, yeah. Like, I knew fleets could fill up. Most people knew fleets could fill up, but I'd never seen it. Like, that was the first time I've even seen a fleet fill up, right?
Really?
Yeah. I never was part of a null block. I've been in fleets of 100. I've been in fleets of 200, but that's the first time I've seen 255.
Wow. Wait till you see a fleet fill up with dreadnoughts or titans, then it's like, this is ridiculous.
I mean, we had a capital fleet.
Yeah. Oh, you had a full capital fleet?
It wasn't quite full. I don't know how many people were in that.
Yeah,
I didn't put my ult in it yet. I was still trying to figure out the overflow.
Were you seeing a full fleet, or were you
I was
participating?
I was in the channel. I was just trying to organize the mid-mill. I wasn't going to be the FC for the group.
I wanted to know if it was like, heavy on one side and you had to move people. No, I guess not. Not actually physically there. All right.
Look at Firebond in chat. We had 4 full fleets of dreads. That's exactly what happened.
Congratulations to you guys for scaring off Snuff. That's not something that's very ordinary. And I wonder what will happen in the future. I think it's a hot zone, though, because Siege Green and Snuff going at it with Rekking Crew weighing in. Keep Stars are being anchored. This looks like it could go on for a while.
Well, Rekking Crew and Siege Green are the 2 biggest groups in the coalition, so they're a lot of the power we have. But the Amar and Minmatar militias are a lot stronger than the militias have been in the past, so hopefully we have a good showing.
All right, cool. Good luck. We'll be watching. Okay, next and last area of the show today is the announcements. Abby, can you take us through some of this stuff?
Yeah, there was just a couple of news items and announcements this week. The latest one that came out today was the announcement of Friendship Week. So this week is the week of friendship. We have daily streams on CCP TV. That's twitch.tv/CCP. We have a friendly screenshot competition taking place, where if you go on the CCP Facebook and Twitter pages, you will find details on how to enter and what prizes can be won. But it's basically just whether it's a small gang fleet or a big massive 255-man dread fleet, or even 4 of them, take some screenshots, post them, and they're offering some great prizes. The 12-month Omega is going to be limited time off 15%, so you'll be able to sub for a year starting tomorrow for a week. Couple of skins and just more announcements of fleets happening.
By the way, is that a good rate? 15% off a year subscription?
Their sales are usually 15% off. Sometimes they have 15% off 6 months or 15% off 3 months, but it's kind of usually 15% off. But I mean, that's on top of the usual bonus you get for, say, a 12-month sub versus a 6-month sub.
That's right. So the longer the sub, the more you save.
Exactly. So it adds on top of that. So it could be worth it if you're someone who needs the sub soon, or you usually sub for a long time. It could definitely be worth saving you a couple of months. I mean, sorry, go on.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, please, go on.
I was jumping the gun. You were still talking about something.
But yeah, the Permaban Roadie skins, these are great skins. They're going to be available in the shop for like 3 days for 55 plex, so pretty cheap on the Mauler, Moa, Rupture, and Thorax. So they'll be nice. But this week we had the quality of life update, and coming on this Tuesday, March 23rd, you will now be able to install multiple jump clones in the same station or structure as long as it has the clone bay facility. That's an amazing, amazing quality of life improvement for
I actually
everyone.
don't like it.
Do you not?
I think it's already too easy to have too many shiny implant sets, and I hate them.
Oh, okay.
But Another thing that happened in the recent update, though, was the response fleets have been re-added to Triglavian Disintegrators and Edencom Gunstars. So Edencom and Trig NPCs are camping gates again once they get activated.
Oh wow, I didn't see that anywhere.
Yeah, I've seen some shiny kills from the Edencom and the Triglavians. But yeah, if you shoot the Gunstars or the wear posts, the response fleets once again come. They were turned off quite a while ago. But expect more gate camps from the NPCs.
I've heard that people are requesting to have the 24-hour time thing changed for the same station. If this plays true, and combined with the multiple clones in one station, well, I've heard some Therans, people who live in Thera, say hallelujah to this. A lot of people are quite happy about this. I'm glad that I don't have to, have all these structures put up just because I have...
Sound went out there at the end.
I will say that I also think that the 24-hour thing should be removed from the stations like it is in structures, because I'm also a Thera diver.
Oh yeah, that definitely should be removed.
If not removed entirely, we were talking about this. If not removed entirely, it should be massively reduced, maybe like 6 hours or something.
No, what we mean is like in a citadel, if you change clones in the same citadel, it's no timer. In a station, in the same station, there's a timer.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Not like jumping for another one. Not from a different station to a different station.
Okay, so you still want that timer?
Yeah. I think that, yeah. But within the same station, I think it should be no timer, just like Citadel mechanics.
For those that don't understand, what's the gameplay reality of clones and being able to switch into different clones at a station? Like, what does this really mean for people, and who would benefit the most from this?
So, implant sets such as amulets, which gives you a percentage of armor in HP increase, like amulets, for example, increase your armor HP. High grade amulets is like a 50% increase. So people who have high grade amulets can take a lot more damage than people who don't. So amulets might be really good for one ship, but maybe snakes, which make you go faster, are good for another ship. And a lot of people who fly more than one ship will have a lot of different clones in order to perform better in places like Losec, where pods are super, super safe, unless you warp to a gate and get smart bombed, right?
Yeah. So this is like a closet full of 5 or 6 outfits. Each outfit has a different purpose, and you can get in and out of them as you need to.
They might have their snake clone to go faster. They might have their Nirvana clone to be taken mind controlled by Sancha and have stronger shields. They might have their amulet clone to be thicker in the armor. They might have ascendancy if they have a freighter, right? Warp faster.
I understand that not everyone might use clones, but if you're flying a very expensive ship, or you're really trying to push your ships to your limit, you're going to have various different clones. You know, I've got a snake clone for flying ships that need to go fast. If I'm flying, say, a Rook, I'll probably be flying a Centaurian clone, so I can get more, increased jamming. And now, this is really helpful, because now I don't have to have all these structures. I've been in some wormholes. I've been in a friend of mine's wormhole. There's not only a keep star, but there's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 other Fortis and structures there, because they need... they're so specialized, they have jump clones for everything. Every single doctrine, every single ship, they have multiple... you need a Genos clone, you need a Crystal clone, and you need a Asclepian clone.
Yeah.
Your clones kind of all look the same, by the way.
Sorry, you still have one more shirt to take off.
But you don't want to have a closet for every single clone, every set of clothes. So now we have just one. Well, we can put them all in one citadel. This is a brilliant update.
Abby, did you say you had to go?
No, I said he has one more shirt to go. He's got one more to take off there. Take off that last clone.
No, that's his clone right now. It's his vampire clone. I think we called it with the glasses. Yeah.
So lore-wise, when you gem clone, your clone body is melted down and the implants are recovered and put into a new clone when you jump back.
Oh, that's wild.
So yeah.
We also have the sorry, just to touch on this before we move on, or in case we forget, the Federation Grand Prix circuit that's happening with the leaderboards. You have 2 more days to go until the event ends. So if anyone wants to run those routes and try and get on the leaderboards for the fastest lap, you've 2 days left to try. We currently have, I'm going to butcher this name, Lorethal Session. Looks like to be on top with 58 points. Drake Idon is coming second and tied with Alex Z1. Both of them are on 50 points.
Wow.
Rubicon, what happens to clones and the implants if a structure goes boom? You lose them.
You lose them.
Once you hit the hull timer, you can no longer jump to your clones. So if you have a structure that the shields are hit, you might want to get your clone out before the armor timer, because if you lose the armor timer, you can't jump to it to save it before hull.
I believe that's a quick timer. After shields get hit, that's only 24 hours, right?
It's like a day or 2, depending on when it's hit and when the timer is, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, when I moved out of my old wormhole late in 2019, I had a talisman pod for flying a Balgorn and then I just left that in an NPC station since I know the NPC station's still going to be there when I come back to it. And I'm still looking for an opportunity to lose that pod.
I thought you were going to tell me the NPC station got sucked into Terra or Poshfen or something.
Oh, that would be hilarious, actually.
I know people who had all their stuff stuck into Pochfen, but it's pretty easy to get out because there's the static wormholes close to where they used to be, each of the systems.
Yeah, there's a great entry manual by an amazing group of players. Yeah, I was just going to plug that there. Anyone who wants to explore Poshfen, guys, check out the Poshfen entry manual by a great group of pilots, Alexis Pateri.
Yeah, Elspeth Rhiannon and Deeb Spar, 2 members of my alliance, wrote the Pochman entry manual, and yeah, I'll link it 1 second.
Actually, yeah, that'd be great.
Nice. Okay, one other thing about the clone change. If what the strategy was for people before that, Rich, you can help me out with this, was to have, because you said this before, multiple structures. So you had 1 clone in each structure, and this is especially true for wormholers, right? So you had 1 outfit in each station, but since you can have all those outfits in 1 station, you don't need those other stations. Therefore, less demand drawn on building structures. With the cores making structures more expensive, less demand on structures. With less demand on structures, you're going to see probably a softer market for selling those things, meaning the prices will probably drop on structures. Production will probably slow because of reduced demand. And that ripples down to the PI that goes into structures. So what you may see is a different mechanic try to absorb some of that. I don't know if CCP is thinking in those terms, but you might see capital ships need PI materials that would normally go into structures, now go into these giant capital ships. That's an assumption. I wouldn't take it as gospel, but look for those kinds of changes coming up in the future.
Yeah, actually, in the CCP Rattati stream with Oz, he mentioned they're going to look into making PI more useful in various new ingredients. Might be a good time to buy cheap PI. But again, don't take my market advice. I'm not a...
Well, somebody joked that PI that's not used very often, there are some PI materials not used very often, but there's stuff like livestock. So how's that going to help a Titan? I said methane. Maybe it runs on methane. Anyway. Okay, a couple more. Go ahead.
You know what? This has a double-edged sword because now if there's less structures, less of a grind to evict someone, and all the loot will be more likely concentrated on one. particularly organized groups actually had entire doctrines and their implants put into one citadel. So I know the one of the groups had like a 6 billion Logi Loki setup that they kept in one citadel, and as soon as they called for that, you go to that citadel, you switch into that clone, you jump into that. Now they don't need that citadel. God knows how they're going to anchor it and all that.
Yeah, but for what he's getting at, for anybody who doesn't know, if you unanchor a citadel in a wormhole and people have stuff in it, it all spills out into space.
Yikes. They put a lot of effort into coring all those citadels and all the logistics. Now it's all going. So
if you have an older corporation or alliance, and you have people who used to play who don't play anymore, and you unanchor it and they didn't get their stuff out of the citadel, you have a lot of stuff to recover.
All right, a couple more things. What's that? A couple more things here. Do we need to move to Eve Anywhere? Is that where we're at?
Yeah. I mean, this was talked about on the EU show, and you mentioned it a few times during the week. But just the release of the Eve Anywhere beta, I guess it's still beta, but it's more public beta now, I guess. This is the service that will allow you to play Eve Online in your browser from anywhere. It's currently limited to North America, I guess USA and North American continent people. It's currently there. One blurb they mention is that it's currently free and offered at no extra cost, which is interesting for them to add because maybe it's going to be paid for in the future because this does cost money for them to run. I mean, Dr. Spot did a great rundown on it on the EU show on Tuesday, right?
Yeah. So we may see it tacked on as an additional service that you can purchase or something. We don't really know how they're going to price it. The idea is to remove friction from players that want to try EVE Online. And so part of a friction point is people's computers not being able to play EVE Online. That's one. And there's also adjacent users, they call it. That is when you have a client or you have customers, let's say, there are people next to them that aren't customers. Well, what's their adjacent customers? So what's the problem? Why can't you get to them? And part of that is they just don't have the computers to play EVE Online. The other thing might be that they don't have the interest enough to wait for a download and install process, which could take an hour or so. So the idea of firing up a browser and getting right into a game is really frictionless for them. So that could work out for them. How's it going, Suetonia? It's coming in right here at the end.
Sorry, man. I completely got owned by British Summertime.
No problem. We missed you on this show. So anyway, Eve Anywhere is something that is interesting to look at. We'll look at it more in the future. It does work. All you need to do to get involved with it is, Abby, how do you get involved with it?
Be American, live in America, or use a VPN to access it from America, I guess. But yeah, you just go to the Eve Anywhere or just go to the Eve Online website or the news.
Yeah,
it's on the main webpage.
You have to go to EVE Online. You won't see it at first. You have to log in. And once you log in, then you will see it. And it's presented to you right up front. That sort of thing.
Yeah, if you're American.
If you're American. Sorry, guys. Okay, one last thing. Then I want to actually talk to Suetonia, see if there's anything going on with him. And that is that right now is a charity run going on for Ablegamers. I think they raised like $9,000 over this weekend. Terrific. Great job. A lot of that is Chocolate Rain doing that. So Ablegamers is a 501c, which is a charity, nonprofit charity group that raises funds with players with disabilities. And there is a blurb that we'll actually post in here, but it's a good cause. And if you want to donate to them, there is a Tiltify link, which we'll put here. This is going to expire by the time this becomes a podcast, so we won't put it in the podcast, but we'll put it here. And they're very close to their goal. Their goal is $10,000. They're at $9,016 now, so you guys can help them over that edge. And here is that link now. Okay, Suetonia, how you doing, man? What's on your mind?
Pretty good. I was like super tired, and I was like, "Oh man, it's the clocks go like forward, right? So I can spend like an extra hour just napping." And then I realized that it's like Sunday, like like it's not, the clocks haven't gone forward yet. They go forward like tonight, but like the way it's written is like Sunday 0200, right? So I think, oh, that was like 12 hours or whatever.
So you literally got confused on it. Oh, that's all right. We just missed you. But I saw you streaming the other day. Were you streaming for this charity?
Yeah, normally I just did my kind of normal stream, just an extra day, because normally I don't stream on Saturdays. And I was just trying to help raise a bit more money. I was doing like a lot more giveaways than I normally do on the day, just to, help get other people in the mood for giving.
Yeah, it worked. You guys have gotten 9,000. Again, Chocolate Rain's put that together, or Rain. And very close to that 1,000 mark, a 10,000 mark, which would be fantastic. So if you guys hear it Talking in Stations, there's 375 of you now. Think about donating. There's the link there. We'll put it up a second time. Hey, I was actually watching you stream for a while, and I noticed you're constantly clicking. Is that just habit, or what's going on there?
Yeah, it's like a really bad habit that I have where, so I have my D-scan hotkey on my mouse, and I'm just conditioned to like press it all the time.
I do that too.
Yeah, so when CSP used to like tell you how many times you press the D-scan hotkey on the I think like this is Eve, or like your Eve or something.
Yeah, your Eve. Your summary.
It popped up, and this is just for my main, by the way. This doesn't count on my ults. I pressed it 1.7 million times in a year.
Oh my god!
I'm surprised. I'm surprised my mice still last like 5-6 years.
That's pretty.
You just have checked out the carpal tunnel.
Yeah, side mouse button.
Yeah, I haven't had any carpal tunnel issues so far, but I guess I need to be careful with it, right? Since I'm like 30s now, and that's normally when you tend to get it.
Yeah,
especially
1 million.
Since I use my hands quite a lot at work too.
Well, if you're using them in different ways, I think it's less of a problem. It's when you keep using it the same way over and over and over again. But more than 1 million clicks on a mouse is a lot. So yeah, it's just the way you play. I was looking at it, trying to think like, what's he doing? Because he's clicking like crazy. Is he doing all this? I kept looking for what you were actually doing, but it looked like almost like a habit of some sort.
Well, it's what you do if you're a boomer, right? And your real APM is like 80, but then you just add 200 on just on the D-scan clicks, So you look like a Korean god, but you're really just like a boomer.
Hey, what's been going on with you? Have you been doing anything in the game? Seen anything?
Same old, really. Just flying the PvP ships that I like. Doing a little bit of industry and PvE than I normally do, just to build up a bit more ISK, but that's about it, really.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll catch you next Sunday when the clocks stabilize and stuff, and we'll pick your brain about a lot of stuff that's going on with the mechanics changes and stuff like that. But I will ask you one question: the clones, the quality of life clones. What do you think of that?
I think that's a really good change. It's great, right? Because number one, you don't need to spam as many structures in your staging system, and there's just a few less structures for people to destroy. And that's it's just nice that CCP is like dealing with structure spam in different ways. And the second thing, right, is it helps a lot with like I think in NPC stations as well. You don't need to have 5 different clones in different NPC stations in Jitter or something. Yeah, it's just really nice. It's a great change. I don't think it really changes balance in a negative way or anything. It's just like a good quality of life change.
What do you think of people being able to just switch into different clones for more power?
Well, you can already do that, right? Like with Citadels, you can already swap the clones instantly. And for example, Volta or any real alliance, what you have is just have like a staging Fortizar or Keepstar, whatever you're staging out of, and then you just have like Astras on the same grid or Forts on the same grid, and you can just swap into whatever clone you want anyway. So it doesn't really change too much. I mean, maybe it does for some systems, like when Voltor in Thera, for example, there's only 4 stations in Thera, so you could only have 4 clones there. But because of the mechanics with NPC stations, where you can only you can't swap clones from NPC stations, you can only jump there, and you get the 20-hour timer, right? 20 to 24-hour timer, depending on your skills, or 19 hours if you have it level 5.
Yeah.
You couldn't swap clones more than once per day anyway, so it doesn't really change anything there, realistically.
Got it. All right. So not a big change for the way you guys operate. It was Thera that I was thinking of because I know you're in Thera a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it would be like, I don't know, it would be nice if CCP let you swap clones in NPC stations where we can use them with Citadels, but then it would also be, it would go against, what they said as a design for Citadels, because that was one of the incentives for people to start using Citadels. And obviously there is a risk in using them, right? Because you have to trust the station owner, and someone could blow it up. We had the thing with Piao and MTACO, and even recently, right, with Rekking Crew, where I'm sure some people lost clones because of spies taking over or disgruntled people taking over structures and then blowing up the clone base. So
yeah, a lot of money goes with that. I've seen that happen. All right, thanks, Suetonia. Late but better than not being here. That's awesome. Thanks for coming. All right, so that wraps up Talking in Stations for today. I want to thank our friend from Eve University, Hippla, and Gideon, who came by and visited us, talk about his ordeal as a outed spy or an innocent man, depending on what the truth is in there somewhere. And also Ron USMC came by and talked about the war with us, so thank him. I'd like to thank the TIS crew that was here today, Arcia, who had to leave, Abby had to leave as well, Gregorin, Rich Richmond, and Suetonia. Thank you guys all for showing up today. And of course, our engineer McLeod has put in those commercials that really saved the day so we can do transitions and also all the visuals that you've seen today. Thank you, McLeod. Next, we're going to move, we're going to go over to Ron USMC, so stick around. We're going to give the crowd back to him. And remember, Ablegamers charity is still going on. And do what you can to get them to 10,000. We will see you next time on Talking in Stations.